Do you ever notice when you're using your Osmo Pocket, you get these weird like bumps when you're walking? If you've got a perfect ninja walk, you might not see this all the time, but where the Osmo Pocket is so small, when you're walking, it can tend to accentuate the steps, and so you get this kind of, I'm sort of exaggerating it now, but this kind of bump when you're walking with it. This is because the Z-axis, which is a sort of up-down axis on the Osmo Pocket, isn't stabilised, and it's so small that it's really difficult to keep your hands steady to stabilise that axis. So that's where the Z-axis stabiliser comes in. So what I've got in my hand here is the Z-axis stabiliser for the DJI Osmo Pocket. This particular one was sent to me by a company called Steadymaker, who asked me to make a video review on the product, but all opinions in this video are going to be my own. I'm going to go through the positives, the negatives, I'm going to be testing it out to see if I can get nice smooth footage with the Osmo Pocket, and I'm going to be giving my opinion on whether or not you should buy this product. Now this one was obviously from Steadymaker, but there's plenty of other options and brands that you can get this style of Z-axis stabiliser in. I know there's a guy called Scotty Makes Stuff who makes a really popular one, but this is sort of a general video on whether I think you should use one of these Z-axis stabilisers for your DJI Osmo Pocket. Now the build quality of this isn't exactly premium, but the price isn't premium either, and that does the trick really. You can sort of clip it to your belt or clip it to your bag with the clip on the back, which is really nice, and it also acts as a case. It fits the Osmo Pocket in it perfectly, so you don't need to sort of carry it as an extra accessory in a bag or whatever. If you were to go on your travels, then you'd literally carry this case and a stabiliser and just put the Osmo Pocket in it when you're done with it. Whenever you need it, just pull the case out, push the button, will release the Osmo Pocket, and you can get filming. It's pretty easy really. So here's what you get with the Z-axis stabiliser. Let's start with the main event, the stabiliser itself. First thing you notice is fully plastic. On the back you have a clip, which is great for attaching to belt, trousers or a bag. And even though the Osmo Pocket isn't fully pocketable when it's in this stabiliser, this helps it stay sort of easily accessible. On the side you have a couple of screws, and these are used for balancing the stabiliser. You also get a little tool to balance this with, so look up a couple of tutorials on YouTube on how to balance these things and you'll be getting it in no time. You also have this little button here, when pressed will release the Osmo Pocket. You notice all the stabilisation is done by springs, and nothing is electronics. There's also a couple more screws here which you'll also need for balancing. You'll see the Osmo Pocket fits in this little holder here, and that's where it stays most of the time, because when you close it, the stabiliser also acts as a case. On the bottom you have a little tripod thread. Obviously this means you can attach it to a tripod, but the main use for it is this, which is a little accessory. So the aim is that you can screw this into the tripod thread on the stabiliser, and it gives you a little cold shoe which you can attach your microphone or light to, which is a really nice addition. If you didn't want to do that, you can unscrew the cold shoe and you have yourself a phone holder. Now all you need to do is attach the phone holder onto the screw and put your phone inside there, connect it to your Osmo Pocket by USB, and you've got yourself a little monitor. So altogether it's quite a nice little rig. So when I got this gimbal straight out the box, it wasn't balanced. So I've got on YouTube, there's a guy called Scotty Makes Stuff, and he sort of teaches you how to balance his version of the Z-axis gimbal, and it's pretty much exactly the same. So if you do get this gimbal, go on there and have a look at that. Like any gimbal, you're gonna have to find out what settings work for you, and you're gonna have to play with it quite a bit to get used to it. You have to master it, master your ninja walk. If you've got different accessories on your Osmo Pocket, you're going to need to balance it a different way to someone with no accessories, because obviously the springs need to work differently. But once you've sort of mastered it, you can get really smooth shots with this gimbal. It's really nice. So yeah, it does take some practice and some work to stabilise, just like anything does. But here's some footage after I managed to get it stabilised. So one of the advantages of having this Z-axis stabiliser is that you can actually turn the Osmo Pocket camera around to face you for vlogging, and none of it gets in the way. So you can vlog nice and steady with it, and the Z-axis stabiliser doesn't actually get in the way of the camera, which is a really nice feature. And also the sort of stabiliser acts as a sort of extension pole. So obviously one of the main complaints about this lens is not wide enough for vlogging, but this sort of takes it a little bit further away from your face, which makes the Osmo Pocket a little bit better for vlogging. So really nice thing that you can turn the camera around and the stabiliser doesn't get in the way. So the big question then, is this worth your buck? I didn't get sent a price of this, but I know they're around £20 to £30, which I think is really good value. I was actually going to buy one of these myself before getting sent one, but I'm glad I got to test it out beforehand. The stabilisation is pretty good on this. It does smooth out those walking movements, especially if you've never used a gimbal or a stabiliser before. If the Osmo Pocket is your first camera on a gimbal, then one of these things can really help stabilise your footage whilst you master your ninja walk. For vloggers, the way it extends means you can hold the camera further away from you and get more of yourself in frame. This is kind of an underrated feature in my opinion. The clip on the back of this, you can clip to your belt or your trousers, and so even though the Osmo Pocket is not pocketable when it's in this, it's still really easily accessible. And the extra mounting rigs means you can sort of expand your rig as much as you want with lights, with microphones, etc. However, I don't see myself buying a product like this, and that's because I keep the Osmo Pocket in my pocket most of the time. I just love the portability of it, and obviously I would sacrifice that sort of walking bump. But I've been a professional videographer for about 4 years now, and I've been using gimbal since day one, so I've really mastered that ninja walk and softening each step as I walk. And so when I was comparing this to the Osmo Pocket footage on its own, I didn't see that much of a difference, or that much of a justifiable difference to justify buying something like this and having the extra size and weight with me. I also found a little bit of a lack of control. When I'm holding the Pocket, I can sort of move it around left to right, up and down as I wish. With this, it was a lot more difficult, and sometimes the Osmo Pocket camera strayed upwards or downwards, and really I just think there's less control when using one of these. So what's my verdict then? I think the Z-axis stabiliser is really good for people who are buying the Osmo Pocket as maybe their first camera on a gimbal and really want to stabilise that sort of jitter when they're walking. But for professional videographers who have maybe used gimbals for a while, I really don't think the difference in the stabilisation is worth the size compromise and the price. Obviously we spend so long using gimbals, practicing on ninja walk, and in my case at least, I think my Osmo Pocket footage without the stabiliser is adequate enough. And when it's not, I can always use a little bit of warp stabilisation in post. I've been Chris Spice. I really hope this has helped make your decision on whether to buy the Z-axis stabiliser for the DJI Osmo Pocket. I make videos on everything camera related, from consumer cameras like the DJI Osmo Pocket to my professional camera, the Sony a7 III, and everything in between. So if you like this video, then subscribe for more content like this and leave a thumbs up down below. That really does help. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.